Hello, and welcome to the market summary for the week of April 6th to 9th. Today's Friday, so the markets are closed due to it being Good Friday. So I thought today would be a good time to take a look at how things are going around the stock markets, both in Canada and the US, and we're going to take a look at um, Harley Davidson, what's going on with them, just to take a look at a company that has some interesting things going on, as well as a non-publicly traded company that you may have heard of in the news recently. So let's start by looking at the indexes and how they performed in the last 5 days. I'll throw the graphs up there for you. Let's start with the American one. Well, I guess I'll throw the graphs up there for you so you can check out where we're sitting right now. As you can see, the both the S&P 500 and the S&P TSX Composite, it looks like they're both up around 10% based on where they started at the beginning of the week, which is a pretty decent sign. That's the thing with the stock market. Things tend to go in cycles, and you'll have a week where stuff is doing well, and then you have another week where things bounce back. Now, of course, there's all sorts of crazy things going on in the world that's causing volatility in our stock markets. So it's not a normal time necessarily to look at the stock market, but so you're going to see a lot of increases and decreases probably over the next few weeks until life starts to get back to normal. And despite the fact that things look good this week, it's always good to look at trends because it's great to say that the S&P TSS Composites at 14,000 when it started the week, just above 13,000. But if you go and look at a 5-year trend on there, which I'll post up for you, you can see we're still nowhere near where the stock markets generally are lying. We're things haven't been this low since 2016, according to the graph there in Canada. And I'll throw up the S&P 500 there, and again, same deal. It's been quite some time since the stock has been sustainably at this price, but looking at those graphs over 5 years hopefully gives you a little bit of confidence that things might be on the way back up, which is good to know. But with news coming out every day as far as the coronavirus outbreak goes and how companies and other organizations are responding to it financially, we're going to see lots of change in the markets over the next little while. So I'll put this question out to you. The indices we discussed last week are meant to reflect what's going on in the market. So if the indices are going up, generally the market's going up. Same thing if they're going down. So what do you think for this coming week? Do you think the indices are going to go back down, or do you think they're going to continue up? I know it's kind of hard to predict stuff these days. It seems like every prediction we make is blown out of the water the next day. But I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think will happen. So make a prediction and track it as the week goes on. Now, I want to look at a couple companies that seem to be having quite a bit of movement in their stock price right now. Well, at least this first one does. The second company doesn't have stock, so we're going to talk a little bit about them. It's more of a Canadian story. So let's start by looking at Harley Davidson. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Harley Davidson motorcycles and all the products that they generally produce. Now, looking at how Harley Davidson's done this week, I'll throw the graph up there. You can see that since the start of the week, the stock price has gone up pretty considerably from $16 to over $21. So that's a pretty big jump, like about 40%, 30 to 40% jump in the price of the stock. So that's pretty significant in the grand scheme of things. Especially for Harley Davidson, I'm going to throw up the max timeline graph up there. And as you can see, the Harley Davidson's not doing great right now. They've actually been in a downturn for quite some time, especially as competitors began to invest in electric engines and motorcycles and things like that. Harley Davidson's Harley Davidson's stock price has gone down pretty considerably over the last little while. It seems like it's maxed out around $70 there, but being at $20 from 70 over the course of what appears to be about 7 years is a pretty big dip in your stock price. You're losing, 60 to 70% of your company's value over that period of time. But the company's still kicking, and they're at least functioning. And if you look at the 5-day one again, it looks pretty good. It seems like it's a good investment right now. Looking at it over a longer period of time, I'll throw the 6-month graph up there. That really illustrates how things have not been going great for Harley Davidson, even over the last 6 months. Now, what's going on with Harley Davidson? It has a lot to do with the news. Harley Davidson was in the news on April 7th this week. And I told you last week that people's feelings about, their predictions on the health of companies in the future and their overall optimism in the market is what usually drives stock prices. And because of that, news can have a huge effect on a company's stock. And so I'll post a link up there for Harley Davidson apparently beating a Tesla Model 3 bicycle, a Tesla Model 3 electric motorcycle in a race there. And there's a video in there for you to watch if you want to check it out. It's pretty cool if you like stuff that goes fast, which I'm assuming a few of you guys do. But when customers and the general public see things like that, hey, here's a device that a company's making that is outperforming really the leader in the electric manufacturing market for vehicles. Those sorts of things have a pretty lasting impact on stocks prices. A 33% jump this week can probably be at least partly explained away by Harley Davidson's, at least can probably be explained by the news that's come out about this. And the second company I want to look at is NOVO Textiles. Now, NOVO Textiles is not listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. It's not a publicly traded company. It's actually a privately traded company that's owned by just one person. And this small company has been in the news because they have a plant in, I'm going to ruin the name of this town, Coquitlam, the first in Canada to produce the N95 respirators that are medical professionals, nurses, doctors, and such in hospitals need to keep themselves safe from preventing the spread of the coronavirus any more than it already is. So I'll post a link up there for the article where you can, the first thing you'll see is Jason Zanata, who is the CEO of this company. I couldn't find information whether he's the owner or not, but I'm guessing, considering he works for a company that only has, it appears, 15 or so employees, I would assume the CEO is probably also the owner. It's a fairly small independent company out in BC, so for them to start pumping out these respirators is great publicity for them, in addition to being just a good thing to do for the world. I'll post up NOVO Textiles' website as well there, as well as their LinkedIn profile, which has a little bit more information about the company. It's hard to tell, especially with privately owned companies like NOVO, what news decisions like this are going to do to the value of the company, especially since the value of the company itself is really defined by the guy that owns it. The value of the company itself is really defined by the owner. And only they, because it's a privately owned company, and the government, because they have to file taxes, really know what the specific value of the company is. Whoever he brings into the fold, I'm sure, like his other executives, are going to know basically what the structure and the assets and the value of the company is. But following this company after this is done might be a very interesting thing to look at, because it looks like they mostly produce, well, it's a textiles company, so they mostly produce materials. Textiles are like, linens and sheets and fabrics. So those are the sorts of products that they produce. It makes sense. Doing the N95 mask is an obvious switch for them into another industry where they can use their processing methods to make something that people really need right now. And I would say the publicity he's going to get from this probably will carry forward past this crisis and may result in an expansion of his business. I don't know what Jason Zanata has for plans for the future of NOVO, but this seems like a really cool story. I thought that you guys should read up on it, because it certainly has Canada-wide implications. And talking about the stock market all the time is great, but most businesses are not giant multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're like this one. And it's cool to see one like this try to make a huge difference in how the coronavirus outbreak is going to play out in our country. All right, that's it for the week. Keep trading. Let me know if you have any questions. And hopefully you had a wonderful Easter weekend.